Alright, so we're just going to go over a little bit of this worksheet before you start working on it, just so you kind of see what I mean when we talk about trends. And one thing you really have to focus on is you have to focus on, like, really what are you looking for? Which trend and what direction are you going for? So everything on this one really has to do with atomic radius or ionic radius, but the same thing applies if you're doing ionization energy or electron affinity, or a metallic character. So you're looking for the trend, you're finding which way would be the best, and then you're going from there. So if we look at this one, we're not going to do all of them, we'll do some of them. What we have to do here is say, okay, first of all, what in the world are they asking us? And when you see this, they're asking us for the smaller atom, which again clearly means that we're going to be dealing with atomic radius. And what you need to remember is, what does it mean to be smaller? And if you remember, when you're smaller, you would be at the top and to the, if you remember, right. So what we're looking for is we're looking for whatever element between these two is more to the top or more to the right, or both. And it really helps if you find them on your periodic table. And the way, if we're doing A here, they look on the periodic table is beryllium's on top and magnesium's right below him. So again, once you know your trend, we're looking at atomic radius, and when you know what you're looking for, smaller, it's pretty easy to say, okay, well, who's more at the top and who's more to the right? Well, beryllium's on top, and they're in the exact same family, so what that means is that we would circle, you would circle, beryllium would be your choice. If we skip over here to E, same trend we're looking for. When you find them on the periodic table, they're right next to each other. We have phosphorus on the left, sulfur on the right. We're looking for the smaller element. You have to follow the trend. It's telling us that to the right would be smaller, which means that your choice, the one that you would mark, should be sulfur. So when you're doing these, you have to make sure that 1, you know the trend, 2, what are you looking for, and then 3, where are they on the actual periodic table. And if you look at, we'll just do number 2 down here, we'll do A, just so you see something bigger. Sometimes they'll ask you a lot of different things. If you look on the periodic table, we have oxygen up here, magnesium's down a row, but he's to the left. And then we would go like aluminum, silicon, and then let's just move. He's a little over there. So I don't have all the other elements in here, but this is kind of what they look like on the periodic table. We're looking in order of increasing atomic volume. So what that means is we want to go from small to big. Well, we know that if you're small, you're at the top and you're to the right. So you have to look at these elements and say, okay, who's at the top the most and who's to the right the most? And in this case, it's oxygen. So what our first guy would be is we would say oxygen is smaller than, and we just keep going and say, okay, who's next? Well, the next guy that's most to the right and at the top is silicon. So we would say oxygen is less than silicon, is less than aluminum, and is less than magnesium. So again, you're going to be working on this for the rest of the period. You can check your answers, but that's what you're looking for. And then a couple of the ones at the bottom, just to show you, remember, when you're doing things with ions, if it's the same element, it's not so bad. If they're different elements, then you have to start worrying, and we'll look at those down here. So this one, we're looking for circle the larger particle. And again, you have to keep in mind who would be larger. So we have calcium, and we have calcium plus 2. Calcium plus 2 lost 2 electrons. That means he would be a smaller element. So calcium would be your choice. If you're looking at, like, say, F over here, we have tellurium and tellurium minus 2. If you're minus 2, that means you gained electrons. So that would mean you would be bigger, you gained weight. So for F, you would actually circle these guys. If you are doing something big, like say down here we're looking at, if we're going to look at A here, you need to look at protons and electrons. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do, I have calcium plus 2, K plus 1, oops, aluminum plus 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do protons first. So this guy has 20 protons. This guy has 19 protons. And this guy has 13 protons. And again, I looked this up on the periodic table. On the flip side, calcium plus 2 has 18 electrons. Potassium has 18 electrons. And aluminum has 10 electrons. So you have to use these to compare, whether you're comparing 2 different elements, whether you're comparing 18 different elements. If they're charged, you need to deal with this. And again, we're going in increasing order, so we're going from small to big. And what you want to look at is kind of, is there anyone that sticks out? Is there anyone that's much smaller or much larger? And the guy that should stick out is that aluminum is much smaller. So what you would write is you would say that aluminum plus 3 is smaller than, and then you get down to these two guys. So if you look, they're isoelectronic. They have the same number of electrons. And now you got to think of the tug of war. And you have to remember that protons are pulling in. They're cinching the waste. So whichever of these two has more protons would actually be smaller because he's pulling the atom into itself. So according to that, that means that aluminums are smallest. And next would be calcium plus 2. And finally, potassium plus 1 would actually be our largest. So you have a couple of these worksheets. You need to work on them. You're going to be expected to do this for your tests. You're going to be expected to do this on your final. You need to understand the ideas behind it. You need to read the book. You need to maybe rewatch videos. You need to talk about it. But that's what you're expected to do.